Hey guys, Nike here. I'm just gonna go through quickly the Elementalist build that we use for Lightning Hammer. There's It's a little tricky because there's a bunch of different ways you can do the traits to tailor it to the type of groups and the type of team that you have put together. But first, I'll go over the gear. For armor, we use Berserker. I'm using Ruby Orbs. You could and should use Scholar Runes. I just don't play this character enough to justify spending the gold on Scholar Runes, but Ruby Orbs are also completely fine. For weapons, I have a Dagger with a Night Sigil and a Force Sigil. And I also carry a Scepter with a Night Sigil so I can trade out with the Dagger, depending on what my group needs. If you need more might stacking, you want to go with Scepter. If you are going to be in situations where you're not going to be able to use your Lightning Hammer or your Fiery Greatsword, you might want to stick with Dagger. And if your group is good at might stacking and all that, and you don't need to do 5 blast finishers all on your own, you can just stick with the Dagger. Trinkets, Berserkers, everything, and that is the gear. Nothing crazy there. So as far as actually we'll go through utility skills first. For heal, I like Ether Renewal because it's a condition cure. It doesn't heal for a lot, and when you really need a heal, it's not a big burst, but it's still pretty good. But I just like it for the condition removal. Arcane Shield, I use this in my free slot because I like the blocks. You are insanely squishy. Like, you make a thief look like a tank with this build. So having the block when you know you're going to take a hit is quite good. And there's other times where if you're fighting a boss who has really slow, just big wind-up attacks, you can pop the shield and then do your Fiery Greatsword rush, and you know that you're going to get your rush off and you're not going to get downed because you're locked into the rush and can't dodge. Signet of Fire gives you like some crazy amount of precision. I think it's like 180 precision, just like the Warrior Signet. So it's really good. I would use that because it helps you get to the 100% chance to crit. And of course, Lightning Hammer. It's what the build's all about. You will do comparable DPS to a warrior on a single target with this. Some people will tell you it's better. It's not noticeably better than a warrior, but it's very, very close. So you're not holding your team back at all by using a Lightning Hammer. The key thing to remember is that the Lightning Hammer third auto attack inflicts AoE blindness. So when you're fighting big groups of trash mobs, you can pretty much just keep them permablind while you're blowing them away with the big hits, and your team is stacked and killing them. And lastly, the Thunderclap is a blast finisher. The blast finisher is going to be super key because you're going to want to have fire fields down at all times when possible. Your Guardian will usually help you out with that, or your NG. And what it's going to do is keep your team permanently at 25 stacks of might. Keeping your team permanently at 25 stacks of might is going to improve your overall team DPS and make your kill times faster. One other cool thing is the Fiery Greatsword, which you can do all sorts of tricks. The attacks do an insane amount of damage. Number 3 is like Whirlwind Attack for a warrior, but does even more damage and moves you even further. If you have the boss up against the wall, it will hit for around 30k. Number 5 is a Firestorm. It's a damage over time AoE thing, so you can just Firestorm first and then do all your other attacks. The auto attack isn't super impressive. It's basically the same as auto attacking with a normal weapon, so you only do it when your other skills are on recharge. Fire Eruption just inflicts burning, not really too amazing. But then the big one, the reason why everyone uses it, is Fiery Rush. Fiery Rush, you charge at your foe in a line, leaving a trail of fire behind you. Sounds relatively innocuous. However, if you have the boss up against the wall or in a corner and you don't have him targeted, you will rush for the entire 900 range. What that will do is he'll take multiple ticks of damage every second. When you have 25 stacks of might and he has 25, and the boss has 25 stacks of vuln in a level 80 area, you're looking at doing several 100,000 damage. That's how you see all the videos of people killing Lupicus in 13 seconds. They're using Fiery Rush to do several 100,000 damage in a couple seconds. So, how do you do it when the boss isn't up against the wall? Well, the answer to that is Lightning Flash. What you're going to want to do, just like bugging the warrior spin animation, you're going to Fiery Rush and then immediately teleport using Lightning Flash to the boss. What that's going to do is lock you in place while you're doing your rush, and you'll do all your 400,000 or so damage right where you teleported to. So that's the big combo. As far as traits, I'll show you what I run for the groups that we run in. 25, 25, 0, 20, 0. The way this works, the reason we run this particular spread, you get Flame Barrier, 20% chance to cause burning whenever a foe attacks you in melee. Not that big a deal because you're never attuned to fire. Extra Might, 5 damage to burning foes. Our Guardian is going to keep our foes perma-burning, so that is going to be just a 5% DPS boost. Inflict damage at your location when you're attuned to fire. You're never going to use that because you're never going to be attuned to fire. Conjure Weapon of 10 more charges. This is what makes the build work, what makes you able to have perma Lightning Hammer, and makes your Fiery Greatsword even that much better. And then Burning Rage, 5% more damage to burning foes. It's just a straight another 5% DPS buff. Air Magic, 10% faster while attuned to air. That's pretty good for just cruising around in between parts of the dungeon. Precision, 5% of your precision converted to healing. Doesn't matter. Doesn't do anything. Electric Discharge doesn't do anything. Bolt to the Heart, 20% damage to foes with less than 33% health. You will notice this kick in a big way. You'll be hitting a boss with a Lightning Hammer and hitting for 12, 13, 14k. Then as soon as this trips over, all of a sudden you're hitting for 16, 18k. It's pretty huge, and it's definitely noticeable and definitely DPS increase. And then Weak Spot. This is why we use this particular trait loadout. 60% chance to cause vulnerability on critical hits. If you don't have an NG in your party, chances are the Ellie is going to have trouble, and you have an Ellie in your party, chances are you're going to have trouble keeping 25 stacks of vuln on bosses. Where this comes into play is in combination with the Fiery Greatsword Rush. The Fiery Greatsword Rush hits for about 80 times when you do it. So, you're going to, basically, while you're the duration of doing it, you're going to have the boss at 25 stacks of vuln. So you guarantee for those seconds, and a little bit after, while you're doing your Fiery Greatsword Rush, that you're doing the absolute maximum damage possible, and the rest of your party is also doing the absolute maximum damage possible. Additionally, just having this trait, when you're just doing your auto attacks with the Lightning Hammer, will contribute a pretty decent amount of vuln to your party. So it's always good to have. Our groups will typically need the vuln, because we don't always have an NG to stack us with vuln. So this this is why we particularly go to 25 into air. For water, regenerate health while attuned to water. This is pretty good, because we're always attuned to water, as you'll see. The regeneration just helps keep us topped off, and if you're using Scholar Runes, it'll help keep you above the Scholar Rune threshold. Piercing Shards. While attuned to water, your spells deal 20% more damage to vulnerable foes. If your foe has 1 stack of vulnerability, you get the 20% straight damage boost, which is why we sit on water attunement when we're attacking, just for an always 20%. That's going to be a huge DPS buff, and a huge reason of why the build works. Healing Ripple, heal nearby allies while attuning to water, rarely comes in handy. And Vital Striking, deal extra damage while health is above 90%, that's 10%. So if you have this and Scholar Runes, you get basically 21% for being above 10% health, or 90% health. Just an extra DPS modifier. What do we lose out on by going so deep into air? We lose out on Bountiful Power, which works out from pretty much between 2 and 8%, but a consistent multiple stacks of Vuln is worth more than a few percent for ourselves. So now I'm going to go to the Heart of the Mist and show you the alternative trait loadouts and explain why they work. Just a moment. Alright, so here's the other trait loadout that we will frequently use. If your team, without you, gets 25 stacks of Vuln, this is the build you want to run. If you have an NG in your group, this is the build you want to run. The reason why we use this, ignore the utility skills. This is just what I had on for PvP. Just look at the traits. This is just going to maximize all your DPS modifiers. You're getting the 5% there, Conjurer, and another 5%. You're getting the 20% to foes below 33. You're getting 10% from Stone Splinters, 20% there, 10% there, and then the boons. So this is basically giving you every one of the DPS boosts. What cost does it come at? You have a much lower chance to crit. So you're going to want to use a weapon that stacks perception stacks to get you a much better chance to crit. You lose some crit damage, but you make up for it by literally every trait giving you a % damage modifier. If the rest of your team is capable of putting up 25 stacks of Vuln without you, this build, you're going to see 20, 23, 22k Lightning Hammer hits. It's just a huge DPS boost. The problem is you're not contributing any vulnerability to the group, and you're not contributing any Fury from the Grandmaster fire trait, so you're really basically just a DPS leech. But sometimes you need that because your team has everything else covered, and you're good to go, and you can play super selfish big number mode, and that's what this is. Alright, so this is the last loadout. This is the loadout you're going to want to use if you don't have a warrior in your party. The reason why, you're still maximizing your DPS boosts. However, without a warrior in your party, you're not going to have Fury, Perma-Fury. So you need to go into Persisting Flames to get Fury out of your blast finishers into a fire field. Basically, with this trait, your team will have Perma-Might, or will have a lot of Might and Perma-Fury. If you have warriors in your party and you're getting Fury, or you have a ranger with Warhorn and you're getting Fury, or some combination of the two, you're not going to need this, so I don't recommend going this far. But if you don't have any other source of Fury besides yourself, this is the best way to do it. So this will be the trait loadout you go to if you don't have a warrior. Pretty rare to be in a group that doesn't have a warrior or some other source of Fury. So I don't imagine you'll get to play this very often, but it does happen. So that's it as far as the different LE builds go. One last thing I'm going to show you is just an example of the Fiery Greatsword Rush, so you can see how it works, and I'll show that in a second. So here we're going to show the Fiery Greatsword Rush. This is a veteran spider boss. We lure him outside and we're going to LOS him so that we can pull him up against the wall so I can show you the damage it does. Now mind you, we have no stacks of might, but look, you see it's hitting him for a significant portion of his life. It burned him down like 80%. So as you can see, if we had 25 stacks of might in a full party, he would have probably died in one go. So that's just a brief demonstration of what it can do. Thanks for watching, and any questions, hit me up in the comments.